Madam Secretary, Vice President Biden is announcing the third plank of his economic program today, the caring economy. It's very dramatic. I think $775 billion for both elderly care and child care. Take us through it. What's very important about it?
Well, I think what's important, let's step back for a minute. What Joe Biden will be is he will be a good jobs president, and he's going to provide greater certainty and stability in our economy, both domestically and internationally. And his proposal today is just one piece of that puzzle. He's really presented a Build Back Better plan for America, recognizing that we have too much income and wealth disparity in this country. And so the plan that he's offered today, which is the third pillar of his economic plan, is really focused on investments in child care and elderly care, helping Americans be able to go to work, making sure that they have a safe place for their children and for their elderly parents.
How many jobs are we talking about?
Oh, millions of jobs. I think the estimate is about 3 million jobs just for this part of his proposal. He's also made proposals around manufacturing and innovation, as well as infrastructure and investing in the green climate economy. And all of those have millions of jobs associated with them. So, Joe Biden is really focused on making sure that we all get back to work and that we get back to work in good jobs.
And what will this do as a practical matter for parents around the country? Take the child care first. Is this universal pre-K?
Yes, he's focused on making sure that you not only have access to daycare, but also to make sure that every child has access to universal pre-K, which we all know, every study shows that children who get that kind of head start, if you will, have a better opportunity in their education. And so this is just a practical plan to put America on good footing and to help all Americans.
Will this be a federal program administered at the federal level, or will this be by way of block grants and delegated to states?
The specifics of exactly how it's structured will be worked out in Congress. But, mostly education is handled at the state level, the specifics of it. But, governors welcome this. I have yet to meet a governor who doesn't say, I want to be able to offer more care, more education options for the families in their state. So this is going to be a welcome program by, across the country.
And particularly right now, given the pandemic and the problems people have with their children at home.
The horrific situation that's facing our country. We have, the pandemic, we have now an economic crisis. We have a real realization of the racial injustice that we've been suffering as a country. And we need to stand up to all three of these crises and issues that are facing us. And Joe Biden's the right guy to do it. And he's proposing plans that are very practical, that are stable, that are reliable, so that, whether you're someone in the workforce, you're a business leader, you're in a not-for-profit, you know how to plan. I mean, we've been careening from, one idea to another idea with our current administration. And what Joe Biden is saying is, I'm going to lay out a well-thought-out plan. I'm going to stick to what I want to get done. And you can rely upon that, both whether you're in our country or you're our allies.
At the same time, they don't come cheap. Any of these three planks have price tags attached to them. This one is $775 billion. How would that be paid for?
Well, first of all, folks like myself are going to have to pay more in taxes. But, there's also the ability to, look at restructuring incentives so that folks can be able to take deductions, if you will, to be able to afford the kind of daycare or childcare or elderly care that we're talking about. So it's a mix of programs that will be able to pay for this. It's absolutely doable. These are not outrageous numbers. These are completely within the realm of possibility in terms of structuring our both our tax and our revenue plans for our country.
This third plank, as I understand it, particularly will raise some revenue from commercial real estate investment, change some of the tax treatment, for example, like-kind exchanges, things like that. You and your family have had a fair experience with commercial real estate, and commercial real estate right now is under some stress because of the pandemic and the aftermath of that. What will be the effect on commercial real estate, on prices, on the markets?
the most important thing in commercial real estate is to have a sound economy. If you think about commercial real estate, what do? We house the economy. And so to have a strong economy is what will actually drive value within the real estate market. The fact that we have a very weak economy, we have huge unemployment, we have great uncertainty, that's the problem for the commercial real estate business, not particular proposals by Joe Biden.
Do you anticipate with your friends and colleagues who invest in commercial real estate that they will buy that, or are they going to resist this?
Look, every special interest has their own, focus, if you will, but that's not the point. This is a time when the country needs to come together and recognize we have to build a better economy for our country, one that's durable and sustainable, one that works for all Americans. And folks in commercial real estate, folks in business, folks in leadership around our country recognize that that's essential. We can no longer live with this kind of massive disparity that we have. We can no longer have a situation where healthcare doesn't take care of every American. We can no longer have a situation where Americans have no idea how they're going to be able to go to work or to get an education or to be prepared for the jobs of the future. I mean, that's the other thing that Joe Biden's very focused on, is helping Americans be prepared for today's jobs and jobs of the future. And you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks in terms of upskilling, and something that I'm very focused on, which is making sure that we have the kind of training that we need in this country to be competitive. That's more important than any particular, modification in a specific tax policy.
Even apart from tax policy, as I say, commercial real estate is under some stress right now because of the pandemic. Whether it's office towers or whether it's malls, we're really having some big questions. From your experience in this area, commercial real estate, what kind of long-term changes do you think we're going to be seeing in that market?
Well, what I'm hearing is that companies are rethinking what they're going to need in terms of their office real estate footprint. They're recognizing that they can do more work from home. We've all learned to become much more technologically savvy. That doesn't mean it's to the exclusion of having offices, but I think you're going to see shifts and see what I hear among my peers in the CEO community. They're thinking about what their workforce is telling them they want and need. And so I think you're going to see shifts in demand. I do think that our center cities will remain places of great interest and great demand. I think once we can get back to a healthy environment and a situation where we're not having to stay at home, I think that you'll see a vibrant economy in our major cities and in our commercial real estate. As it relates to retail, retail's been going through a change, and the pandemic has hastened that in terms of how much we rely on e-commerce. But this is something that, one of the things that folks in commercial real estate learn to do is to adapt their properties. And I think you're going to see change coming.
More broadly, we have a little over 3 months to go now until the election, and we all see the polls. It's still a long way to the election. But right now, the polls are indicating that Joe Biden may well be the next president of the United States. And markets are starting to take that seriously. CEOs are. The CEOs you talk to, what do you tell them about what a Biden presidency will mean for business, for the financial markets? Because there's a lot of concern about taxes and regulation.
I think what a Joe Biden presidency will mean, first of all, is stability and certainty. And that's the first thing that American business leaders want to know. What's the circumstance? It is, if I've talked to one, I've talked to dozens of my business leader friends who are saying, I don't know how to plan because I can't tell what to expect because I don't know, what are the rules, and they keep changing, and what's the circumstance they're facing. So certainty is number one, and I think most important. The second is our relationship around the world. Whether we like it or not, we live in a globalized world. And that means we both do business around the world. We have to work with our allies. It's extremely important that we participate as a country in the major issues facing our planet, like climate change. And so business leaders, I say to them, you're going to understand where we stand. We're going to be committed to green energy. They want that. They know that. They've been on a plan to do it. this process that are living through right now, or circumstance that we're living through right now, is so topsy-turvy. It's very difficult to know how to plan, and to particularly, businesses don't live week to week or month to month. They live on a longer term trajectory. And so they need to understand, are we going to have a stable, rational leadership? And that's something that's very important to not just the business community, that's important for our workers. It's important that, the average American family knows what the circumstances in this country and what programs can they rely on or not rely on. Not this idea that one week, we have DACA and the next week we don't have DACA. One week we have, just, it's massive uncertainty facing us right now. And it makes it very difficult for those of us who invest in companies and try to grow businesses to be able to plan and to actually put our efforts to work.